Mini enthusiasts, how are you doing? I hope you're well and I hope you're having a great day. In today's video, we're going to get really dirty. We're going to get the bulkhead prepped. I might have already done it. Here's the intro. Let's get stuck into the action. Right then, what next? So don't panic. Before I threw that scuttle panel away, I did cut out the VIN number. So we'll be keeping that. I've got the bits from the inside and the wiring loom in there. In the last video, I mentioned about possibly replacing the wiring loom. I've had a look at this loom and it's not too bad. It has been bodged up in a few places. But in general, it's not that bad. A new loom is 270 quid, so I'm in two minds yet. I mean, it is still quite an old loom. So I might just buy one. It's always difficult with this project because if I was doing this car to sell it, that would be a crazy idea to put a new loom on. But as I've always said with this car, I think right from the beginning, I've spent too much money on it. I'm going to keep it. It's going to be a keeper. It's going to be my own car. So I don't mind blowing the budget a bit. So I probably will stick a loom on it. I've got the lower dash rail out now, and then next bit I need to get the pedal box out, which is tougher than it sounds because you have to get these top bolts out here, and I don't know whether you can see, but they are shear bolts. So I had a bit of a go to get it out before and struggled. That was with the dash rail in. Now I've got it out, hopefully it gives me a bit more accessibility. But I need to get it out because it gets in the way and it's all really corroded under here, around here, so I want to get it out. So I probably won't film that. I'll be back in a minute once I've got those shear bolts out, but they are a bit of a pig. But when you get to this point, it obviously makes things a little bit easier. Right then, pedal box is out. Wasn't too bad. It is a lot easier with the top dash rail out, and I've got the blanking plate out of there. So why is it so difficult to get off? They're shear bolts, so you have to kind of get a sharp chisel and chisel your way around the edge to undo it. Shear bolts are a security measure. It's to stop if they put normal bolts on there, someone could literally unbolt the whole steering column, which would get around the steering lock. I can't quite remember, but that's why they're there. They're there for security, and to get them off, because there's no nut head, you have to get a sharp chisel, go on the edge and just tap it to undo them. So as you're looking from the inside of the car, that's how it looks. So the accessibility, as you can see, is pretty rubbish to get a hammer and chisel in there. It is easier once you've got the top dash rail out, and then obviously you've got these spacers which go in above it. And it looks easy, like there's a couple of nuts up the top there, but they're captive nuts, so you can't get a socket on them to undo them. And this whole arrangement, I'll just get it in place. Bear with me. So this whole arrangement sits something like that on the car. And obviously we've got our pedal box out now. So some of those threads are not fantastic on there, but I can run a tap over them just to clean up the threads a little bit. But that can be used again. So next bit really is, I guess, get this bulkhead cleaned off. In fact, before I do that, I might do that in between. That's a really boring job, that. I'm not going to time-lapse me cleaning up the bulkhead. I'll just do that when I'm bored. So the next job will be sorting out this hole in this top dash rail here. So I need to cut a piece out here. The tricky bit will be getting a cutter into there. But I'll cut it out, we'll shape a bit, and then see where we go. Right, so this is going to be an interesting piece to make. We need to make a small piece up here for the inner part of the bulkhead, and then we need to make this piece to go in here. However, it does have part of the fresh air vent in it as well. I don't know whether I'm going to recreate that bit or not. I'm not sure. I'll give it a go. It's not really that important if I miss out that very last bit of the fresh air vent. And obviously that's the outer part of the bulkhead, which would sit up against like that, so it's quite difficult to get it cut out. But the inside was all corroded anyway, so yeah, let me get fabricating. So there's our repair section. I did put the air vent in. Actually, pretty good fit. Let's get the welder out, get that welded in, and then of course I'll just have the sort of engine side of the bulkhead to make a plate for afterwards. But yeah, let's get that welded in. Right, that's tacked in place, but what I did forget to do was take off the zinc coating, so I'm just going to go over that with a strip disc quickly. Obviously, I won't be able to get the underside now, but yeah, I have to keep it well ventilated and make sure I don't breathe it in. Right, so there we go. That's that bit done now. I just cut out that extra section there to weld in. And there's obviously the main section inside. Pretty pleased with that. I'm just going to waz some hammerite on the inside of here, because as I say, this part of the dash rail is not really visible. You might be able to see a little bit of the green over the top, so we'll just put some hammerite on there. And obviously, like I say, I've retained this lip here for the vent. We've got the screw hole. So yeah, pretty pleased with that. I probably didn't have to linge it back that far because you can't see half of that, but yeah, let's waz some paint on there. Right, so while that's drying, I'll need to put a second coat on there, but that'll do for the moment. I'm just going to go round, and I think I mentioned it before, I need to put these tabs up on the inside of the inner wing. Now I've got the welder out. I also need to weld in some captive nuts in here, fill up one of these holes. So I'm not going to film that, I'll just get on with it, and I'll show you the after result. Right, so there are tabs welded on now. I have also welded on captive nuts where the broken bolts were, and then there was one broken captive nut in here. So now I need to do the really messy bit, which is getting the wire wheel out, cleaning up all of this seam sealer and rust under here, and then we can get on and treat it. So be mask on, goggles on for cleaning that up, because it does make a flipping mess. Just wanted to give a quick update. So I've been using that Furtan rust treatment on this side. I've got to say, not overly impressed with it. I tried it because Cure Rust, after you leave it a few weeks, it starts to rust through a bit when the garage is damp. But this Furtan, I mean, it just rubs off. It's yeah, not overly impressed, to be honest. I mean, it does good at neutralising the rust, but I'm not convinced it's that fantastic. But I also need to scotch this off now and get a layer of primer on there. I also noticed where the Furtan drips, where it's a bit thick, it doesn't dry either. So first job, cleaning that all off. We'll probably scotch that back, paint that, get the door on, and then we can get ready to put the front end on. Whew. Right then, that was a horrible, messy job. So we've just gone around, and anywhere that had any hints of rust, it's been wire wheeled back and then been stripped back to where I can see clean metal. I've not removed all the paint just because it's a bit pointless. I mean, this, you're never going to see it anyway, but obviously it's all going to get treated and painted and everything like that. I've just noticed a little bit more I need to do around here actually, so I'll just do that quickly in a moment. The worst bits around here, luckily, if left much longer, that might have become a problem. It's always worse on this side because it's where the brake fluid and clutch fluid gets spilt, and obviously it's very corrosive. Doesn't do the paint any good, and it corrodes the metal brake fluid, so that's why you got more corrosion on this side. This side's pretty clean. I've taken back all the seam sealer, so obviously that'll all be redone. We've gone down to the bottom part of the bulkhead as well. We've cleaned up the inner wings, and obviously I've cleaned up, if you ever want to check, so when you're spot welding, because we're going to spot weld the wings on, the underside of here has to be clean metal as well. I usually just use a mirror like this. I can go along after I've run the strip disc down it and just have a look and make sure I've got clean metal everywhere. Probably a bit easier to see on that side. So I know I've got good metal for the spot welder. So I'll just clean up that little bit now, and then I'm going to cure rust it. I'm going to use cure rust this time, not the Fertile. As I say, I'm comparing the both. Not too impressed with the Fertile because, is it Fertile? I can't remember what it's called, but it seems to just rub off with your hand. So I'm not convinced it's giving that good a protection. I did just run a seamer weld down the engine mount in there, and got some cure rust between the gap there before I welded it. I forget what it's like welding thicker metal. It's so much easier when you can crank the amps right up on the metal, on the welder, and not have to worry about blowing through. So that was a nice seam weld there. And there were some additional holes in the bulkhead here, which I think were where the alarm was mounted on. So I've just filled up that hole, those holes there. So bear with me, I'll just get the cure rust out. We'll get all that cure rusted and then leave it, and then until next time. Right, so there we go. That's all the cure rust on. It's all turning purple as it neutralises the rust. Yeah, just got to let that dry now. Next steps will be putting some primer on it. I'm not going to paint it yet because I've still got to get the scuttle on. And it's just, yeah, it's not ready for painting yet. So I must get some epoxy primer actually. I'll keep meaning to order some. I'm going to go and order some in a moment. Because the problem with normal primer is it's porous. So if it will still rust through primer. Epoxy primer, however, is much better because it's not porous like normal primer. So you can put it on, it gives a bit of protection. So I'm going to go and order some epoxy primer. Yeah, quite a bit done today. Bit further forward. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. And just thank you very much. I really appreciate your support. You all leave nice comments. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. And yeah, thanks for all the thumbs up as well. We getting sort of nearly 300 each video at the moment, which is really quite impressive. So thanks a lot, everyone. Catch you again on the next one.